Agree or not, nocturnal adventures in Arachnopolis are not always bright and heroic. There are nights when darkness in the city takes on its own breath and shadows blur, creating an atmosphere full of ominous premonitions. On one of those nights, when the streets were empty and the flickering of lanterns seemed like a dim light in a gloomy alley, I, Spider-Man, felt a strange unease. The city slept, but the air was saturated with something dark, as if an unknown threat lurked in the shadows. I began to climb the walls slowly, feeling the unknown penetrate every corner of the city. My web disrupted the flesh of the night, leaving glowing traces in the darkness. But the further I advanced, the more I realized that I wasn't alone in sensing this pulsating fear. Dark figures, immobile in the darkness, began to flicker around. Not villains, not criminals. Something more frightening. They were shadows of the past, ghosts tormenting their souls in search of something stolen from them. And that something involved me. The whispers, barely audible against the night wind, became more distinct. Fear and hatred, slowed by eternity, seeped into my soul. They knew my name, knew my sin. These were ghosts of those I couldn't save, their voices becoming more tormenting. Invisible hands pulled me into the darkness, and I felt my own web become ominous, as if it took the form of a nightmare. Every glance into the shadows seemed like a menacing gaze of lost souls, and their shadows intertwined with mine, creating a nightmarish mosaic. In this darkness, I found myself trapped in the revenge of ghosts, forgotten events, and dark threats threatening to engulf me. Every step into the darkness led me to something inevitable and dreadful, as if the city itself transformed into a trap for my own nightmares. The dark figures of ghosts, possessing supernatural knowledge of my darkest fears, beckoned me toward them. Their visions foretold disaster, and I realized that in this struggle against darkness, nothing could be hidden. My soul became an arena where the lost battles of my past resurrected in terrifying images. The further I walked into the darkness, the stronger this indeterminate threat became. As if the web of time in which I entangled my destiny began to unravel, and the foreboding of a sinister future became clearer. I was entangled in the twisted threads of my own nightmares, the knot of which tightened even more. Everywhere around me, ghosts flashed, whose voices created dark choreographies of fear. But amidst this dark ballet, I realized that I had to stand against forces mysteriously coming to life in the shadow. My costume, usually a symbol of my strength, began to live its own life, as if taking the form of a menacing specter. In the culmination of this ominous journey into the world of my own nightmares, I realized that the darkness enveloping me was merely a reflection of my inner struggles and fears. And in this terrifying symphony of nightmares, I found strength. The strength to confront my own dark parts and fight the darkness within me. Thus, I, Spider-Man, stood against the shadows of my own fears and confronted the darkness within. The heart, filled with fear and heaviness, slowly began to dissolve the darkness within me. My web and spider powers, usually directed against criminals, now served the exploration of the dark labyrinth of my inner fears and experiences. Every thread of the web was like the thread of Ariadne, leading me through the labyrinth of my own soul's torment. At the end of the path, I discovered the deepest space of fears and pain. In the dark room, which I tried to ignore, moments of weakness, mistakes, and losses resurfaced. These shadows were the most ominous, but in their encounter, I found the strength to become my own hero. The battle with the ghosts of darkness ended, and the shadow that enveloped me gradually dissipated. I stood in the light of my web, once again ready to accept the challenge of the night. Now, with an understanding of my dark corners and overcoming my fears, I became not just a defender of the city, but a warrior of my own soul. The night in Arachnopolis became bright again, and I, Spider-Man, continued my journey, knowing that in the world of shadows, there will always be light, and every nightmare can be transformed into strength and wisdom. My city felt the change, even if ordinary people couldn't see the dark labyrinth that I successfully overcame within myself.